Thanks for being here. We appreciate you take part in the AndyMac Works productivity platform. First, before we begin, we want to throw a shout out to our sponsor, AndyMac, throughout the United States. They're in all 50 states. This program wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for their sponsorship. There's no cost for you guys to participate whatsoever. We ask that you simply honor them with some loan apps and pre-quals and even a simple thank you as part of providing this program for you.
We're going to talk about how to service your listings. Really important part of this conversation is really what you do after you have gained the listing. Your credibility should be very high at that point when you sign the listing paperwork. Obviously, they've committed to you. They believe and trust you're the person to sell their home, and at that point, it's a finesse. It's an artwork, whatever you want to call it, to keep your credibility at that highest level. And I think that that's where the trick comes in. That's where the art of this conversation comes into play. It's just maintaining that credibility so that you ultimately earn the sale. What do we do when we're 2 months in, when we're 3 months in, and things start to hit the fan, so to speak? And you have to kind of come up with some things. So hopefully there'll be some good ideas, some new ideas, or some ideas just to reaffirm what you already knew that you can implement into your day-to-day business when you're dealing with these listings. There's a couple of things that I think you really wanted to do is in keeping your sellers updated in the loop of everything that's going on with preparing the home to show, letting them know what you're doing to sell the home. That's an important part of the process is just touching base with them, just letting them know and really calling them before they call you. I know for me personally, when I would call a seller, they were much more appreciative. When they called me, got my voicemail or whatever the case may be, it starts to chip away at my credibility. He actually had to pick up the phone, leave a message, wait for me to call back, and I started to lose credibility in that. What buyers thought and what they bought. We're going to talk about functional obsolescence, open houses. When and where will they be advertised in marketing and all those different things? You'll do your syndicated sites. Again, did they call you or did you call them? And we're going to touch on that credibility roller coaster. To me, one of the biggest things, because when you're up high, you're all excited and you got that little tickle in your belly. But when you start to go down, you kind of feel like you want to throw up. So it really truly is a roller coaster, and you've got to maintain those highs as much as you can. And then, of course, educating them on the market conditions, like what's happened over the last 50, 30, 45 days that you've had that listing, in order to demonstrate what's going on in the market, what people thought, what they bought instead of their home, what they're looking for. So we're going to kind of cover all those today, and I think some of them are kind of some no-brainers, but I would submit that if you got some listings that are expiring and you're going 6 months in, you may not be doing all these things, or you may not be doing them effectively. So we're going to break them down and take a look for you. Just as simple as preparing your home to show, and we talk about this in our customer first class, we talk about this in staging, we talk about this in our listing presentation class. We really address this as on numerous levels, but this is really how to service your listing class and really where the rubber meets the road in this, but simple things that could really help make a difference. I mean, you only get one chance to make a first impression, right? That's the saying. Someone drives up to the house, the grass is overgrown, the shrubs, there's no mulch in there, there's bicycles out in the driveway, whatever it looks like, it looks messy. So you've already dropped the credibility of the home right off the bat. So now they're kind of looking for everything else that goes along with it. So really help the sellers keep the lawn trimmed, weed and cultivate the flower garden, trim the shrubs, and just basic cleanup of that stuff. Make sure the debris and the clutter is cleaned up. Make sure there's any repairs out there. I used to always have a handyman in my bag, and I had 2 or 3 over the years at any one time that, I can call out and look, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I got a guy for $75, $150. He'll come out. He'll mulch all this here. He'll trim these shrubs. He'll fix that gate lock on the fence there. If you guys can pick up these bicycles and put them neat in the garage, we'll tighten this place up out here and get it looking really sharp. Nobody's going to balk at that. Nobody's going to have a problem with it. I mean, I find that most people that need the grass cut or need the shrubs clipped are people that aren't doing it themselves, that are paying for it to be done. So they 9 times out of 10 they don't have any problem doing it. But really make sure that everything's clean, like the roof and the gutters, the cracked windows, torn screens, really make the entranceway look clean and inviting. A lot of these things, like I said, guys, it's pretty it's kind of a no-brainer, but you'll be surprised that, even now when I went looking at some homes when I was renting out here in Colorado, looking at homes and just driving up to some of these houses, all this stuff really sticks out like a sore thumb to me. Like, I notice everything, even like the doorbell not working. I got to push the doorbell and it doesn't work. I don't hear a ding. I got to knock on the door. $10, $20, $30 gets a lot of these problems fixed. So it's just, I don't know. To me, they're very simple but missed in a lot of things. So I don't think I need to go through and read all those things, but even just replacing a shower curtain, setting out fresh towels, making it look really nice. I mean, I think in staging, Victoria talked about getting some of those spa towels, the really nice plush ones that when you're showing the home, you have those out. They're never used. They're really fluffy. They're really bright. They're vibrant. They're not faded. They look really sharp. And then when you're using your bathroom, you use your regular old dingy towels. So just simple things like that. Spending $10, $15 at Target to do those things. And then, of course, removing all the clutter, kids' rooms and things like that. I mean, you really want people to see the size of the rooms, but it's really hard to get past when you have Barbie dolls and dream houses and Xboxes and video game controllers all over the place. So, really tighten those things up. Use packing boxes. I mean, if you're going to be moving and you're committed to the process, you're probably going to start packing. So get some boxes. I mean, you can get these things online and get them at the Home Depot for a couple bucks a box now, and pack some of this stuff up. Put it neatly in the garage in the corner. It's easier for them to load on the truck anyway. It just makes everything a lot more efficient inside the house. So really take the time out to do that and really paint that picture for them, because truthfully, some of these people may not have sold a home in quite a while. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what that process looks like for them. So you got to kind of help guide them, paint them out in the right direction, so that they can kind of take the steps they need to make the home presentable and put the best foot forward. I mean, come on, let's give it a fighting chance here, really. And then, of course, we're going to move into what are you doing to sell their home. Really important part of this is that what you promise at the beginning in your listing presentation, hey, within a week I'm going to have you in Harmon Homes, I'm going to have you in the newspaper, I'm going to have you on all my syndicated sites. Have you communicated that that's in process? Have you communicated that you've done those things? Have you sent them copies of the ads? Have you sent them a link to all the syndicated sites so they can view the home? So really important to let them know every step of the way what's happening, where they're advertised, and then really let them know what to expect from you. I think that's and that was really good for me is when will you update them? Hey, listen, I'm going to touch base with you every Friday, okay? I'm going to let you know where we're at. I'm going to let you know what's going on. I'm going to let you know about the showings, because you're going to have some really, what's a nice way? Proactive sellers? Is that a nice way to say it? Or some busy bees, for a little less, that are going to say, hey, Tom and Jan just come by and look at the house. Okay, take a breath. It's going to be a little while longer before I hear anything from Tom and Beth as to what they thought about the home. It's not they're not going to call me from the car and tell me they love the house. And a lot of what you do is trying to chase down realtors for feedback. That it doesn't become the most important part for a realtor to call you back and tell you what they thought. If they liked the house, they would have called you. If they didn't like it, they wouldn't have called. They're not going to call you, and they're not going to take your call. So we all know that that's a process in there. There's a lot of creative things you can do. Offering some Starbucks cards for $5 to people when they respond with feedback. I've seen a lot of things over the years. Maybe you want to implement them or not, but truth be told, you kind of know. You should know. You should know what that process was and why they didn't like the house. You're $20,000 overpriced. That's why. You have a 4th bedroom that's a garage. Okay, well, there's a reason they didn't like it. So you kind of already know some of these answers, and you may want to hear it from the other realtor, but in any event, you get the point, I think. So really let them know, look, I'm going to update you every Friday afternoon between noon and 4. If you're not there, I'll leave you a voicemail, I'll shoot you an email as well, and we're going to let you know everything that happened during the week. Gives us time to get back on the showings. If somebody showed the house on Wednesday, I'm not going to hear from them right away. I have to chase these realtors down, and maybe Thursday or Friday before I hear from them. So I'm going to compile all this information over the course of the week. And then, of course, I'll let you know every Friday where we're at. And then make sure you call them every Friday. And that was really helpful for me in letting people know what they could expect from me. As long as you follow through, you're in good shape. And that's, what it becomes. You don't want people blowing up your phone. If you got 4 or 5 listings, you got a couple showings happening on each one, before you know it, you got 4 or 5 voicemails you got to attend to. So manage those expectations with your clients. What buyers thought and what they bought, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but what's that feedback? And it gives you an opportunity to defer the responsibility of the issues to the buyer. I had a house at one point that, and I've told this story before, but it's a pretty impactful story and really goes to painting the picture effectively. But she had a house in Oriole Margate. It was a 3-2, about $150,000, $180,000 house at that point back in the day when everything was, really expensive. And she had a rescue for animals, and she had dogs and cats, and she literally had 20 dogs and 20 cats in this house and almost no furniture. And it was all tiled, but one of the problems is that anybody that knows cat pee, cat urine is very potent. That's why they have those litter boxes and things. But these cats would pee on the tile, and that was bad enough for the smell because it would just kind of sit in there, and you know, even though it was tile, it was still hard to clean. But the problem is that it was so strong it seeped through the tile, through the caulking, the grout, and into the cement floor underneath the tile. And we had all the industrial stuff from Home Depot. We had a company called PetPP.com come in and put the hazmat suit on and go through and clean this tile with all these industrial chemicals. They couldn't stay in the house for 2 days. It was almost like tenting, and go through this whole process. But the moral of the story is that, look, when I went in, I knew there was a problem, okay? But now I'm one voice, okay? I'm going to say, look, we got a urine problem in here. We got a odor. And so that's me saying this conversation. So maybe my credibility is high enough to get them to do what they need to do. And we thought we might have we priced it pretty aggressively. I was able to communicate that. But as time went on, it proved to be a bigger problem. It proved to be much more deeper than what we initially thought. So I'm able to defer that responsibility to the buyer. Going, hey, Mrs. Jones, I had a buyer come and they opened up your door, and the little smoke cloud of stank hit them in the face so bad that they didn't even come in the home. That they had to walk off with water pouring out of their eyes. I mean, they were just all fogged up from it. I say that for dramatic effect for you. You can certainly paint that picture better to your seller, but that was how it was painted to me, just to give you the indication. And then when you start getting 2 and 3 and 4 people coming through, all saying the same thing. You have a smoke odor problem, you have a pet odor problem, you have a carpet issue, you have a paint issue, you have a bedroom issue, whatever the case may be. Well, now it's compelling. Okay, you have a compelling argument to make to your seller. That, look, these 10 people all came through and said the house smelled. These 10 people came through and said they didn't like the fact that the 4th bedroom was a garage, whatever the case may be. And it's evident that, look, they went and bought something else. They found more value in this home than they did your home for that money. All right, so it becomes a very, very powerful tool for you in deferring that responsibility to the buyers. They can't fault you for that. That's not your fault. Look, that's what 8 buyers thought, period, end of story. Excuse me. And then you show them what's more attractive. Obviously, a true 4-bedroom, 2-car garage is more attractive to a buyer. A home that doesn't stink so bad that your eyes water, whatever the case shows up like. And then compare their home to all the features out there. And really, it's all about the pricing. They like this home because of the price per square feet, and they bought this home because of the size of the rooms for the money. So it becomes very easy for you at that point to paint the picture of, look, here's what they're looking at, this price per square foot, as opposed to your house price per square foot, opposed to the work that needs to be done, whatever it may be. And I know that some of this, like I said at the beginning, guys, I know some of this is not an aha moment for you. It's kind of a duh. But the problem I see is that I would submit that probably you're not doing all of those things. You're not doing every one of those steps so far, and there's going to be more to follow. So I think that ultimately when you put this all into a package, wrap it up with a nice little Tiffany bow, you're going to ultimately arrive at more sales. I mean, the idea here is to not let a listing expire. Like, I would rather not take a listing if I felt that 6 months from now this thing was going to expire. And at a point I got to that in my career where I would just turn away a listing. I'm like, I'm sorry, we're just not coming to terms here. I can't really invest the money and the time that it's going to take unless we're all on the same page at the beginning. And that's very empowering for a realtor to be able to walk away from a listing and not take it. And certainly sometimes conversations change. Sometimes I walked away. Sometimes they've called me back 6 months later after they tried it the wrong way, whatever it might be. But it becomes a very good conversation. So, end story, I don't take listings to let them expire. I take listings to get them sold. These are the steps you're going to need to do in the middle to stay on task. When you start to talk about functional obsolescence, I don't know that it's as bad now as it was back, 2000 to 2007, but those over-improved homes when the sellers put too much money into them, and really was one of those cases where people were going out and getting home equity loans, getting $75,000 on their home they bought a year ago and putting new flooring, new bathrooms, new kitchens in, and then trying to sell them. From 2000 to 2007, the market was on a rocket ship. You could never catch the top of the market, so you could always do those things. But as that started to shift is where the problem came in. Just because somebody put $40,000 into the kitchen doesn't mean they improve the value of their home for $40,000. I mean, they really, all they did was position themselves at the top price for a 4-bedroom, 2-home in great shape. So that's really all that they did. Whatever that $40,000 kitchen did, it took them from maybe the middle of the market at $279 for a 15-year-old kitchen, and put them at the $299 price point. So it maybe gave them a $20,000 boost for that upgrade that they did, if they're lucky. So like I said, it puts you at the best of the market. I mean, you're always going to find appraisal issues when you do it. A guy's going to come out to do an appraisal. He's not going to add $40,000 for your 42-inch cabinets and your oak wood and your handles and backsplash and all that stuff. So it's not going to happen. So even if you do find somebody that's going to buy it, you're not going to get the appraisal at $320. You're going to get it at $299, which is what that market's dictating. So you really have to demonstrate that to them, let them know that conversation in a nice, professional way that lets them know. I mean, would you rather be the best home in the subdivision or the least expensive? I mean, it really becomes an interesting conversation, the head of the mouse or the tail of the lion. I would rather be the smallest, least expensive house in a neighborhood than the most expensive house in a neighborhood. I remember in a place in Shadowwood, there was a home that was, they basically built this home in a subdivision. It was a $250,000, $300,000 subdivision. Guy tore down a house and built a $650,000 house inside of the subdivision. Ouch. I mean, he's kind of dead in the water right there, because every other comp around him shows 300, 320. You might have some really big homes in there at 350 price point, but nowhere near this. And his house stood out like a sore thumb. It was almost a 2.5-story home that towered above all the other single-story homes that stuck out. But he was that, he was at the top of the market there. So, and I've seen a lot of people that, maybe buy in Fox Ridge. They bought the 575 house in an $800,000 neighborhood. You're doing pretty good. You're all right at that point. You got some room to grow there. So, really important part of this conversation of where they fit into the neighborhood, and it really goes to demonstrating that to the client, going, look, you're kind of putting yourself at the top of the market. You're either the head of the mouse or the tail of the lion in that conversation. So hopefully that makes sense for you. Open houses become a pretty important conversation for you in this, because there's a couple different ways to go about this and a couple different ways to look at this. The first I would submit to you is that, I guess in a nutshell, maybe it's my opinion, so let me just go with my opinion, but I believe open houses at a point are to make the seller happy. That's your main job. I don't know that too many times I've sold a home from an open house. I may get a buyer that ultimately turned into a sale, but really it was about making the seller happy. But in the same tongue-in-cheek flip view, there becomes an opportunity for you to go out there and do several open houses and really maximize the conversation in here and really add the value. So I think that if you're doing, an occasional open house for a seller here or there, and you're just kind of doing one to make them happy, that's all you're really going to do is appease them for about a 4-hour window on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon. But if you do it right and structure it differently, it could actually turn into a very different business model for you and a very different program. When you leverage several open houses on Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4, 12 to 4, 12 to 3, I don't think you need a huge window. It's a couple hours a day of your time to do it when done right, but gives you that opportunity to go out in the subdivision beforehand and visit maybe 30 homes, 25 or 30 homes, drop off some flyers or some door hangers about the open house in the area, going, hey, look, I let your neighbors know. I let a lot of people in the area. You never know. Some of these folks are going to be having some buyers that may want to move into this neighborhood, know some people. And that's leveraged a lot of stuff over the years for me with agents that we've worked with in gaining traction in there. In addition, in your farm area, when you list a home in your farm area, man, you'd be a goof not to do open house every weekend in there. Market to every homeowner in there that you've just listed this home, that you're doing an open house, to come by, say hello, take a look at the house that's happening and selling in their neighborhood, meet you, get a cookie, get a little sandwich to go, get a drink, and make that introduction. A really important part for you in building your credibility with the seller, but also building your credibility with the community. So I think there's a lot of conversation to be touched on with the open house part and leveraging it right. We all know that we're going to try to appease the seller in this conversation, but there's so much more that we can do when you start to leverage 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 open houses throughout the course of a month. So I think I can get off my soapbox on open houses right now. So hopefully that was helpful for everybody. Like I touched on at the beginning, it's so important. Did you call them or did they call you? It's so imperative that you initiate the call. I'm reminded of a story when I sold one of our first homes. We bought a home, me and my wife, we got married, a small home and starter home in Tamarack back in 1995, 96 or something like that. And it was a very easy process. We were nervous. It was our first home. I wasn't even really in real estate till like the end of 96, 97 at that point. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what we were doing. And then as I went through the process and got into real estate 2000, I think I bought my next home. And I bought a home that I had listed in Coconut Creek. I'm trying not to make this a long story, but it's a fun story, I think, anyway. But it was a fixer-upper. I liked the house, but the guy that lived there was not not a productive member of society. He did some questionable things. He had some questionable folks living in the house, did some not so nice things, and the house was a wreck. But now I'm looking at this house at $199 going, dang, I got this house priced right, but it needs work. If I find somebody to do the work, it's going to go. But this guy needed a certain amount of money to come out of the house and so forth and so on. Long story short, nobody bought the house. The guy ended up going to jail. He calls me from jail going, what can I do? At that point, I went to work, found out the best scenario for him. It ended up that it was a pretty good opportunity for me to buy the house and take it on with removing my commission and, getting him what he needed to post-bail, I guess. But anyway, it worked out. But my wife was 6 months pregnant with our first kid, and the house needed a lot of work. And at that point, I was doing pretty good. I had a team of people, a handyman, and I was able to send somebody in there and do this work. But the first time she saw the house, she almost cried because she was just like, 6 months pregnant with our first child, moving into this new house. It was a wreck. It needed a ton of work. But the problem was for me, and where the long story comes short now, is that I had all this covered. All right, I had it all done. It worked out beautifully. We cleaned the house 3 times. We did, industrial cleaners in there and stuff. Put new flooring in, painted all the walls, did everything we needed to do. But I didn't communicate well to my wife. Even though we're laying in bed at night side by side or whatever the case may be, but I didn't communicate effectively to her. I didn't tell her every step of the way what was happening. I didn't tell her what was going on. And so she was left wondering, every night, like what's going on with the house, or every morning she woke up. It was like her last thought and her first thought, a little scared, and she trusted me in the process. But I hope that you get the point. I hope I didn't go on too much of a tangent, but you got to imagine in that type of scenario that she was questioning what was going on and was concerned. How do you think Mary and John are going to feel about this whole process when you don't talk to them for 4 days? They're going to feel even worse. What's going on? Mary's going to say to John, John's like, I don't know. I didn't talk to him. Why are you yelling at me for? So, oh, we got to get this home sold. So I hope that brings it all home for you real quick and really paints the picture. But you can't expect that they're just sitting back thinking that you're doing your job and that everything's okay. Gosh, my new bride of 3 or 4 years didn't even trust me at that point. Not that she didn't trust me, but you understand the point. So people that you have less credibility with and a less of an arm's length relationship, it's going to be that much worse. So you really have to initiate that call. You really have to call them and let them know what to expect. And even when just stupid things like, hey, Mary, I just saw that John and Sam came by and showed the house today. I'm going to stay on top of them and see what they thought. It's sometimes a little struggle for me to get hold of these realtors. It's not their highest priority to call me back and tell me they didn't or didn't like the home, but I'm going to stay on top of them. Okay, it took you like 2 minutes to make that phone call. But again, you're either keeping your credibility at a level or going up higher with it. So really just simple things like that. Calling them up and saying, hey, we're going to do the open house a week from Saturday. Is that still okay for you guys? You have any plans or anything going on? As you promised them at the listing presentation when your credibility was high. You promised them within the first month you're going to do an open house or two. It's time to start putting that thing into action. So always being proactive. Initiating that contact becomes a very powerful tool for you. It just keeps that credibility high. And ultimately where the value comes in is when it hits the fan and you can go in and say, hey, listen, you can see I've done everything that I promised. We've been in every ad. We've got your home out there. We've got it marketed in all these different channels. We're on all these different syndicated sites. We've done 2 open houses. Here's the collective feedback I got from the buyers. Boom, 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 boom. You go through all that stuff. Head of the mouse, tail of the lion, functional obsolescence, 4th bedroom's a garage. There's no pull. Boom, whatever the case may be. Your credibility is high enough that you're going to get the price reduction. If you've missed any of these previous 6 steps, your credibility is going to be low. You're not going to get that price reduction. And I've seen it happen 100 out of 100 times. They don't do that initial work. Credibility's low. They're dead in the water. Just might as well let it expire at that point. So maintaining that roller coaster and predicting that human behavior, filling the gaps and keeping them looking forward to something. When I get off that phone call that I just made, hey, I just saw that John and Sam came by and showed the house. I'm going to stay on top of them and let them know what's going on and get the feedback from them and see what they thought, see if I can hook these people, get them to put an offer in on the home. Oh, yeah, I wanted to let you know we plan on doing that open house next Saturday. Oh, yeah, we're going to be in the syndicated sites. Oh, my office is doing an ad in the real estate guide. Fill in the gaps in the conversation. Filling in those gaps, bridging that communication so that they're always looking forward to something new, keeping them updated to what's next, and really alerting them to changing market conditions. Look, we had 3 homes that sold 20 grand below value in your neighborhood, whatever the case may be. Loan rates just went up, loan rates just went down. Keeping them alert of what's happening there, really bridging all those gaps in that conversation. So when you look at all these different things and you put them into the credibility roller coaster, your open houses, your internet exposure, new advertising that's coming up, price reductions and accessibility, a great time for you to say, look, people are jumping through hoops to try to show your home. If I have to jump through hoops, if you're going out with me and looking for a home, and we have to jump through hoops and call this realtor 3 times, she has to meet us with a key or whatever, we may just skip that home. You got to make it accessible. So it becomes an opportunity for you to hit that ball back with them. Weekly feedback, brokers opens and virtual tours. You can do virtual tours. For all of you that haven't seen the MyWorks suite, really great opportunity for you to really customize some stuff, create some really slick virtual tours. This is a free service that we're providing for you now through your banking sponsors. Great opportunity to go in and make some really cool things happen in that conversation for you, creating really nice slides, really nice video widgets, QR codes that people can scan, getting custom riders. If you haven't seen it, go to myworksuite.com. Sorry, just a little side, but really great opportunity for you to put a free, very effective, very useful resource together for you. Brokers opens can always be, a good opportunity. I know we used to go around on Thursdays was our broker open day in South Florida, and we used to go figure out who had Chinese or Italian food and what we were in the mood for. And we'd go out and kind of grab some of that stuff and see a home. But, it becomes a good opportunity for you to go out and meet other realtors, see the neighborhoods, see the other homes that are out there. In addition, gives you an opportunity to provide that level of credibility for your seller and do one of those broker opens like maybe 60, 70 days in. I'm sure that you can get one of your reps from AnnieMac or Southeast Mortgage to maybe help buy some food or do some things for you. Maybe share the time with you there and provide some good faith estimates and some marketing pieces from their part. So I would reach out to your loan officer and see what they can do for you. Great opportunity to elevate your credibility, meet some other folks out there. A lot of different opportunities. Special and second showings become a really great conversation. If somebody called me and go, hey, we want to show the house again, you can use that to elevate your credibility, all right? You can say, hey, listen, I was reaching out to some people that showed the house. I got a hold of Mary. Her buyers want to see it again. Can we set that up for this Saturday at 10 a.m.? Okay, great. All right, they called you to set up the home, but you're able to elevate your credibility in the conversation in doing it. Take advantage of stuff like that. Hey, he's really working. He's really out there making things happen. We like this guy. We like this girl. We trust him. So use that to your advantage. Talk about other listings that have sold. Maybe why there's no showings, why no offers. As long as your credibility's high, these folks are going to listen to you. When your credibility was high, they listened. They hung on every word you said. They ultimately listened with you. As long as your credibility stays high, they're going to listen to you about why their home's not getting showed, why they bought another home, why they need to make this price reduction, and all those things that go in there. And then, of course, the buyer's looking for X and expecting Y. We touched on that as well. But you need to be able to address all those concerns. You need to be able to handle them effectively, bridge those gaps in that conversation so that you ultimately arrive at the sale. There's a lot of, a couple more things I just want to touch on real quick. Upgrade program, empty nester, niche professionals. Really good opportunity for you to kind of, add some value in the conversation. We did a upgrade program where I would sell your home. You would purchase your next home through me. We'd give you a 1% commission reduction. So I'd ultimately get 5% instead of 6%. But I had two deals. I had two deals that were locked to me, tied to me, that weren't going anywhere. There was no buyers or liars conversation. We were going to sell this home. They were going to buy their next one with me. They were going to get a nice chunk of money back to go in and buy some furniture, redo a room, put some pavers down in their driveway, buy a plasma TV. I don't care what it was. But good opportunity for you in that to drive that point home. I think it becomes greedy for you to think you're going to get 3 on the listing side and 3 on the buy side automatically. Somebody may leave you for that. If you're giving them a point back, they're ultimately going to stay with you. Talking about concierge service, those we did have some systems in place over the years where we had some, you could call in to get help with moving and call in, we'll get the handyman services, a lot of different resources, and maybe put some of those programs together. Talk about your in-house attorney and title company, your in-house lender becomes a great opportunity for you, meeting face-to-face with the lender, going over the good faith estimates, loan options, all those things. Just provide extra value for the client. Full service staff, if you have that at your office, the we conversation is so much more valuable than I have an assistant, I have this. We have a full service staff. We have a transaction coordinator that will take your sale all the way through the entire process. Make sure that everything's turned in. Make sure the inspections and appraisals are done on time. Make sure everything is turned in. Make sure they're through underwriting. Make sure they're out of underwriting. Make sure everything's been provided. And a lot of people do, and I haven't seen it, I'm out of touch in the direct real estate market, but we used to have girls that would do the transaction coordinator for about $275 a file, and they only got paid if it closed. So it became a worthwhile venture. There was no skin in the game for me unless it closed, but it gave me that personal assistant. Hey, this is Ann with Chip's office. This is Ann with Deborah's office. This is Ann with Donna's office. Really gave you that connection, that gave you that powerful conversation that goes in, and I think that might be something you should implement in your brokerage if you don't have it. And if you do, make sure you utilize it, and make sure that you have all that put in place, because it just adds a little value for you. But really, the market is ever changing. I've seen so much shift in, where I was in 2007, where we were in 2010 and 2012, to where we are in 2015. It's changing again. I think things are really starting to turn a corner now. Homes that are priced well and show nicely are getting multiple offers and selling very quickly. So I've always been a fan of listings. They're always my favorite. It was always something that I worked hard for, but maybe, just maybe after you've done all of that, you will have sold the home. There's no guarantee in that conversation, but I can guarantee you that if you miss a few of those steps in there, that you're probably not going to arrive at a successful sale in this. So I know some of it, like I said, was kind of a no-brainer, but my whole point was to put all of this into one comprehensive package to keep your credibility high so that you ultimately do the things you need to do to get that home sold. Like I told you at the beginning, I'm not in it to take a listing to let it expire, man. I'm in it to take a listing to get it sold. I'm going to do everything I can if it's worthy, if it's worthwhile. If it's not, I wouldn't take the darn listing to begin with. So I think that we're looking for 100% here. If we can get as close to that as we can, we're going to be in good shape. So
Thanks again for being here. Again, please reach out to your sponsor, to your loan officer with AnnieMac. Honor them with a loan app from Prequal and show your appreciation for them providing this platform for you guys. Again, there's no cost for you. So just reach out to your AnnieMac LO and show your appreciation and thank you. So thanks again for being here, and we look forward to being with you on our next session.